Have you ever noticed how silence can disturb someone more than any argument? How a single calm smile can rattle a person who's desperate to see you break? In a world obsessed with reaction, your stillness becomes a mystery, one they can't solve, one they can't stand. Because when someone resents you, what they truly crave isn't victory, it's your attention. They want you entangled in their drama. They want your rage, your defense, your collapse because it validates their importance. But what if you gave them none of it? What if your greatest response was no response at all? The Stoics taught that real power lies not in conquering others, but in mastering yourself. And Machiavelli knew this too. True control isn't loud. It's strategic, subtle. It works not through resistance, but through quiet redirection. In this video, we're not talking about revenge. We're talking about legacy. We're not reacting to hate. We're turning it into fuel, with nothing but clarity, discipline, and the kind of smile that says, "You never had a chance." So if you're tired of being pulled into battles that aren't worth your time, stay with me. There's another way to win, and it starts in silence. The disarming smile as a Stoic weapon of power. He smiles not out of joy, not out of mockery, but out of control. A calm, unwavering smile that tilts the entire balance of power without a single word spoken. That smile is not a reaction. It is a revelation. It reflects nothing of you, but it reveals everything about them. In that moment, your enemy does not see you. They see their own weakness staring back. Their noise, their rage, their obsession, all of it crashes silently into the mirror you've placed before them. That is the beauty of composed dominance, to remain unmoved, while others unravel in the presence of your stillness. Machiavelli knew what the Stoics knew. True mastery doesn't lie in force or fury, but in letting the opponent destroy themselves while you stand untouched. When you speak, you give them shape. When you explain, you give them ground. But when you smile and remain still, you give them nothing, and that nothing becomes unbearable, because now they must face themselves. Let them flail, let them whisper, lie, provoke. Let them bait you into the arena of mud, because they assume that's where all battles are won. But you're not of that world. You do not answer to their desperation. You do not climb down just to prove a point. You do not react. And that restraint is what makes you formidable. What infuriates the petty is not your words, but your refusal to step into the chaos they've prepared. A wise man once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And your smile embodies this. It says, "You expected a clash. I offer silence. You expected resistance. I offer peace." And that peace you cannot understand, because it cannot be manipulated. Every attempt to wound you fails, not because it lacks force, but because it finds no target. Your composure makes them irrelevant. They wanted to fight. You gave them indifference, and in that indifference, they drown. Because what stings most is not defeat, it is insignificance. That's what your smile delivers. It is not anger, not contempt, not arrogance. It is a quiet reminder. You were never a threat. That's what they cannot forgive. That's what they cannot overcome. While they burn their energy trying to provoke a reaction, you preserve yours. You invest it into higher things, into discipline, into purpose, into legacy. So smile, not to mock, but to master. Smile because you are no longer playing the same game. And deep down, they know it. The one who stays calm in storms does not need to shout. The one who knows their path does not stray to prove anything. In the end, your silence will echo louder than their outbursts. Your stillness will haunt them longer than any retaliation. And your smile, that final, unmoved gesture, will be the last thing they remember, before they collapse under the weight of their own pride. When hate fuels your ascent, when someone chooses to hate you, they offer you something far more valuable than they realize: their focus, their attention, their time. And while they obsess, while they burn themselves out imagining your downfall, you remain still, not in weakness, but in clarity, in control. You are not playing the same game. They gift you space in their mind, rent-free, and you turn that space into a fortress of discipline. Their hatred is not your burden, it's your leverage, because while they expend their energy trying to pull you down, you're using yours to rise, to sharpen, to grow into a version of yourself that no longer fits the frame they've built in their minds. They are fighting the past, but you've already moved beyond it. The Stoics taught that no insult, no act of malice can touch your inner fortress unless you allow it. Epictetus said it best: if someone speaks badly of you and it is true, correct yourself. If it is false, laugh at it. That laughter can take many forms, and one of the most powerful is the calm, unreadable smile. Let them hate, let them whisper, let them believe their schemes are working. You owe them no correction, you owe them no reaction. Their downfall begins not when you retaliate, but when you refuse to engage. While they fire arrows into the fog, you're already moving in silence, building something they cannot even comprehend. I recall a time when someone close to me, a supposed friend, chose envy over loyalty. They whispered behind my back, tried to shift the perception of others, worked tirelessly to pull me down without ever saying it to my face. I responded with nothing, not because I was blind, not because I didn't care, but because I knew that stillness does what no defense ever could. I greeted him with a smile, asked about his day, and watched him drown in the quiet. It wasn't long before his stories contradicted. His bitterness became obvious, and his intentions revealed themselves without me ever lifting a finger. Because hate, when not fed, ferments, it spoils, and eventually it smells too strong to ignore. People see, they always do care, but only if you give them the space to discover the truth without your interference. That's the Stoic's edge. Not revenge, not rebuttal, but quiet mastery of the self. A strategy so refined, it looks passive to the untrained eye. But in truth, it's action without noise, it's power without performance. It is Machiavellian in execution, but Stoic in principle. Let your enemies exhaust themselves. Let them swing at shadows. Let them believe they're gaining ground while you build quietly behind the curtain. This is how empires are constructed, not with loud declarations, but with strategic restraint. Power never shouts. It doesn't need to. The loudest voices are often the most fragile, but silence terrifies. Silence forces the restless to face themselves. Your smile, cold, steady, unreadable, is not about kindness. It's not even about courtesy. It's a signal that you're unshaken, that their words don't penetrate, that you've chosen a higher pursuit. They wanted chaos, you gave them calm. They wanted friction, you gave them space. And now they have nothing to fight but their own reflection. There is something deeply unsettling about being ignored by the very person you aimed to destroy. It dismantles the illusion of control. It says, "You are beneath my strategy," and few things wound deeper than being irrelevant. Hate requires resistance. It thrives on response. Remove both, and it collapses in on itself. What they spit toward you becomes the poison they drink slowly, unknowingly, until it's too late to turn back. So let them call you cold. Let them label you detached. Those words hold no weight in the realm of purpose. You are not here to defend your reputation. You are here to fulfill your mission. And sometimes, The most necessary form of courage is indifference. Machiavelli once said, "It is better to be feared than loved." If you cannot be both, but in this age, perhaps it is better to be unreadable. Let them wonder who you are. Let them guess your next move while you stay 10 steps ahead. And remember this final truth: peace is not found in the absence of opposition. Peace is found in your ability to ignore it entirely, to live so far above the noise that it no longer reaches your altitude. You do not win by silencing every critic. You win by becoming so untouchable that even their hatred grows tired. That is the Stoic's path. That is the quiet triumph. That is how you turn their hate into the very fuel that takes you beyond their reach. Build what outlives the noise. Most people react, few endure, most chase applause. But the Stoic and the strategist builds for centuries, not moments. So ask yourself, do you seek the comfort of winning an argument, or the power of being remembered long after the noise has faded? The world does not reward the loudest. It rewards the most unshakable, the builder, the one who smiles while others rage, the one who remains unmoved while chaos demands attention. When envy knocks, let it stand outside, let it shout into silence, let it grow tired in its own echo chamber, because the ones who truly prevail don't confront every threat. They render those threats meaningless through excellence, through distance, through the quiet establishment of something so complete that no insult can penetrate it. Your enemy's greatest punishment is realizing they had no effect, that they were not even an obstacle, merely a footnote in a much larger narrative. You don't destroy your enemies by fighting them. You eliminate their importance by leaving them behind. Their hatred becomes background noise in your ascent. Their attempts at sabotage fail, not because you retaliated, but because you continued to rise, unbothered. That's the message behind your silence. It communicates authority, detachment, precision. Your smile. It's not politeness. It's dismissal without confrontation. It's control without cruelty. It says, "You're not in my sphere." And in that exclusion, they feel the sting. So don't correct them. Don't defend yourself. Let them believe they're ahead. Let them celebrate. Because while they burn time seeking your failure, you build unshakable foundations. And one day, they'll look up and realize you've disappeared not out of fear, but because you were never standing next to them to begin with. You rose, silently, strategically, and they never knew how far you'd gone until your success made the distance impossible to ignore. But do not mistake your calm for stillness. Beneath the quiet is action. Every smile, every pause, every unreadable moment is part of a deeper calculation. You're not withholding for weakness. You're withholding because you're conserving. You're sharpening. Machiavelli understood this truth. True power is not in being seen, but in remaining unreadable. Your movement is your weapon. Your unpredictability is your armor. When you don't respond, you force them to imagine your next move, and the mind always invents worse punishments than reality could deliver. You win, not because you fight harder, but because you see further. While they seek validation, you build legacy. While they gather allies for petty attacks, you gather time and clarity. Every moment they spend fixated on you is a moment they forfeit their own progress. That's the hidden cost of envy. It keeps them rooted while you remain in motion. And that motion is what makes your silence so profound. Because in a world obsessed with spectacle, your restraint is rebellion. Your indifference is dominance. When you refuse to engage, you deny them what they need, most relevance. They will lash out. They may grow louder, more theatrical. Let them. Their energy is not your concern. Their emotions are not your burden. You owe no one your focus. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength is what your haters fear most, not your retaliation, but your indifference, when their aggression meets no resistance. When their attempts at provocation are absorbed into stillness, they are left exposed. No target, no traction, just the silence that reflects back their own frustration. They may call you cold, they may accuse you of manipulation, but that too is their confession. They reveal their weakness in their desperation to break your peace, and when they fail, their hatred folds inward, devouring its own source. This is not about being heartless, it is about being sovereign. You are not here to react to every shadow that passes. You are here to build something enduring. A lion doesn't answer every barking dog. He walks his path, undistracted. So too must you, because when you finally speak, if you choose to, it won't be to defend. It will be to declare, to mark a turning point, to define a new standard, and it will carry weight because it was not given carelessly. That's the power of restraint. It magnifies impact. Your silence, your stillness, your refusal to descend into noise, they are not signs of withdrawal. They are evidence of direction. You are not here to prove yourself to the ones who wish you harm. You are here to fulfill something far greater than their understanding, their opinions, their narratives, their projections. None of it alters your course. What matters is the outcome. And if you remain steadfast, focused, and composed, the outcome will speak louder than any defense ever could. Let them think you're aloof. Let them create fictions. The more they guess, the more they err. And in war, especially a war of perception, every error is fatal. You don't need to confront them. You simply need to remain above them. For what they seek cannot reach the one who has left the battlefield entirely. That is how legacies are written, not in battles won, but in noise ignored, not in arguments resolved, but in lives elevated. Keep building, keep rising. Let your silence write what your enemies can never erase. When silence speaks louder than power, as they rage and conspire, you rise not through confrontation, but through discipline. As they scream for attention, you remain still, because the higher you climb in purpose and clarity, the smaller their voices become, not by suppression, but by distance. Their words can no longer reach the altitude you now occupy. You've left their arena. You're not reacting to their provocations because you're no longer part of their game. In fact, you're not even on the same board. Let them indulge in their petty rivalries, clutching grudges like treasures, spinning stories to validate their bitterness. Let them strategize in the shadows, convinced they're winning some war you never joined. You, on the other hand, are engaged in a different kind of conquest, one built in silence, in intention, in self-mastery. You're building not with noise, but with structure, quietly laying the foundations of something so vast they cannot comprehend it, much less sabotage it. Cathedrals of thought, empires of action, and none requires you to respond to insults flung from below. The Stoics taught that true power is never loud, that dignity is preserved not through retaliation, but through restraint. Marcus Aurelius didn't pause to explain himself to every critic in the Roman court. He simply continued writing, thinking, ruling with unwavering clarity. That is the path. Your silence is not absence. It is dominance in its purest form. You are not avoiding battle. You are denying it the dignity of your presence. So let them shout. Let them gather followers. Let them mistake your stillness for surrender. In truth, They're exhausting themselves in a war of noise while you conserve your energy for construction, and one day they will look up to find you unrecognizable, no longer within reach, no longer concerned. That is the true victory. Not the loudest voice, but the last one standing. Not the one who wins the argument, but the one who no longer needs to have it. Silence, when rooted in purpose, becomes a language only the powerful truly speak. Restraint is mastery. There is a silent kind of power that few ever master, the power of restraint, the strength to remain still when provoked, to say nothing when slandered, to hold your fire when you could destroy, not out of fear, not out of passivity, but out of principle, because you understand a deeper truth. What is collapsing needs no push. When the foundation is already cracked, time will finish what you never had to start. Let them feel victorious. Let them walk with borrowed confidence. Let them celebrate battles that never mattered. Meanwhile, you evolve. You don't confront. You ascend. You build beyond their reach. The Stoics believed that true might comes not from domination, but from self-command, to outlast rather than outshout, to surpass without spectacle, and this is the essence of your restraint. While others throw stones, you become the mountain. While they conspire in corners, whispering your name with trembling insecurity, you remain unshaken, because what they fail to understand is that every insult they craft is just air, and you are stone. Words may stir the weak, but you, governed by reason and clarity, do not bend. Your silence is not absence. It's an active choice, a refusal to waste energy on what does not matter. For every minute they invest in your downfall, you invest in mastery. For every rumor they circulate, you double down on discipline. They expose their own desperation in every attempt to provoke. And that is your proof of victory when their need to attack reveals your importance. Remember, no one aims upward without reason. No one throws stones downward. Their envy is the confirmation that you have risen. History remembers those who spoke last, not loudest. The most powerful figures were rarely the most reactive. They valued mystery. They practiced composure. They let time be their advocate, because time always exposes the false, the fragile, the fabricated. The schemers trip on their own webs. The liars forget their own stories. But the one who smiled and said nothing stands tall when the dust clears. You don't need to clarify, to correct, to retaliate. Your path was never built to be explained to those who can't see it. And those who are meant to walk with you will feel your power not in what you say, but in what you embody. Your silence is not empty. It's a language, a code of the disciplined, the unshakable. Few understand it. Fewer still can practice it. But those who do, they become untouchable. Let them talk. You're writing legacy. You're not here to win arguments. You're here to build a legacy, not to impress critics, but to construct something so enduring that by the time they begin to grasp its depth, you've already vanished from their reach. Your path was never about proving yourself to small minds. It was about fulfilling something too vast for them to comprehend. By the time they awaken to your purpose, the distance will be too great, the summit too high. Their words, their schemes, their attempts, they will all fall short. So keep smiling, not because it's effortless, not because it doesn't sting, but because you've chosen elevation over reaction. Your mission is louder than their noise, your values stronger than their malice. And your direction pulls you forward, not backward into the chaos they so desperately want to drag you into. That smile they don't understand, it's not surrender, it's sovereignty, a shield, a sword, a crown. It says, I am unmoved. I do not bend. I do not explain. You don't wear it to hide emotion. You wear it to master it, because every emotion you command becomes a weapon in your service. Every reaction you suppress becomes a trap disarmed. Let them call you distant, arrogant, detached. Let them speak. You owe no reply. One day, when your silence has solidified into something undeniable, they'll remember that smile, the one that haunted them more than any insult ever could. And you'll have long forgotten them, because the ultimate form of victory isn't just outgrowing them, it's outliving the need to even remember them. Let them gather in circles. Let them throw stones from below. You are not made for the mud. You are carved for the heights. You rise not by fighting, but by refusing to descend. You don't extinguish fire with fire. You smother it with stillness. You let their rage burn itself out in your absence. And when the dust settles, they'll realize too late you never played their game. And that's why you won. Legacy isn't built through noise. It's built through consistency, restraint, and focus. Every insult you ignore becomes a stone in your foundation. Every moment you hold your peace, a seed planted in deeper soil. Hate is loud, but brief. Legacy is silent, but eternal. So let them scream while you stay composed. Let them shadowbox with illusions. Let them destroy themselves, trying to pull you into battles unworthy of your time. Your stillness, your silence, your discipline, they speak volumes. They are your strategy. They are your language. And when you do choose to speak, it won't be to defend. It will be to move the world. And one day, when they finally look up and see where you've gone, they'll understand nothing they said, nothing they tried, could ever stop you, because you didn't just endure their hatred, you outgrew it. You rose in silence. You turned their noise into your distance, and in doing so, made them irrelevant. And the most powerful part, you never needed to raise your voice. If that truth speaks to where you are in your journey, take a quiet moment to subscribe. Not out of urgency, but out of alignment. The path ahead is for those who choose calm over chaos, discipline over drama, and in the comments, write above noise as your quiet vow to stay focused on what truly matters. There's more coming, more strength, more clarity, more silence turned into strategy. So stay with it. You're not here to prove anything. You're here to become untouchable.